Former President Trump is asking the Supreme Court to keep his name back. Put his name back in Colorado's 2024 primary ballot. The justices could vote in the next few days on whether to fast-track a decision. Trump's attorneys writing, quote, "In our system of government of by the people and for the people, Colorado's ruling is not and cannot be correct." Now, President Biden is planning to mark 3 years since the January 6th Capitol riot with a speech at Valley Forge on Friday. Biden choosing the same spot where George Washington staged American troops during the Revolutionary War. I want to bring in former Georgia Congressman Doug Collins. Hey, Doug, it's great to see you.
Good morning, Cheryl.
Morning. I want to pick up on this move by the former president taking this to the Supreme Court. Not unexpected. We expected not just, Colorado, but also Maine. This is going to go to the Supremes. But your take on the move by the former president last night?
It's needed. We need to go ahead and get this thing settled. I mean, this is, just horrific law when you look at what's happened in Colorado, you look at what happened in Maine. It's sort of interesting, Cheryl. I didn't think Colorado could get worse, and then Maine stepped up and said, hey, wait, hold my drink. Because, it got worse in Maine, and you had what Colorado had no real due process of any kind. It was a kangaroo court, nobody able to confront witnesses or call witnesses, these kind of things. And in Maine, it was basically even worse, where you had an appointed Secretary of State who heard from some complaints and then just decided, that he committed an insurrection. Although he's never been charged, never been convicted, none of that has ever happened. So I think it's important when you also look at the states like Michigan, California, others who have said, no, we're keeping this on the ballot. These are not valid charges. So I think the Supreme Court would be good to go ahead and end this early, because if it drags on, you could have others try to do this past the primaries on up into the general election, and that becomes a bigger problem at that point.
Well, yeah, let the voter decide. Let's, just because you believe that the former president committed a crime doesn't mean, which he was again never charged with, and it's an opinion, but it's not the rule of law. I do want to ask you about President Biden, though, and him making this speech at Valley Forge, because this is reportedly. This is something that's going to be their strategy for 2024, if indeed it is going to be another matchup between Trump and Biden, that the Biden campaign is going to, instead of they want to take the focus away from their bad polling numbers and his bad job performance ratings and just shift that and go after the former president, demonize him. That's how they think they're going to get votes and win in the general. What do you make of that strategy?
Well, it's a strategy that's not worked for the last couple of years, really since they got into office. I mean, this is what they've tried. Anytime that anything happened bad in the Biden administration, it was always Donald Trump's fault. And if they were getting pushback even from mainstream media, it was January 6th. I mean, they try to bring this up all the time as the touchstone to say that this is why the country's in terrible shape, and democracy is, you're going to hear this more, Cheryl. Democracy is on the ballot. We're going to lose democracy if Donald Trump, wins in this. But again, I just go back to the point we just had in the last segment here. You're entitled to your own opinion, but you're not entitled to your own facts. And Colorado, Maine, and some of these other states who want to take people off the ballot who are the main direct threats to the sitting president is not about democracy. It's not about anything except, an anti-democracy sentiment. And I think that's where they're going to fall short. Look, they've got a real problem. Immigration is terrible. The economy is not being perceived as being good among all groups of people, including some Democrats in this. We were not giving Biden a strong re-election mode. So they're going to try and throw this any way you can. Believe me, Democrats will show you more pictures of what they believe are problems in democracy in states in January 6th than they ever will about the accomplishments of Joe Biden.
Doug, switching gears, the DOJ is suing the state of Texas over a new law which allows the state to deport illegals. They're accusing the state, Texas, of disregarding the Constitution and settled Supreme Court precedent. And then you've got House Homeland Security Committee, which is now scheduling that first impeachment hearing of Homeland Security Secretary Mayorkas. That is beginning next week. What do you make of this move to impeach Mayorkas?
Well, it's one that I actually agree with. I think it'll be very difficult to actually end up doing it given the state of the Senate. But I think if you look at this, he has bent, twisted, contorted the law so much in his time as HHS Secretary, Homeland Security Secretary, especially at the border. The using parole in a way it was never intended to be. I mean, just the things that are going on there, not functioning properly at the border, not stopping people. These are the kind of things that again, I think most people understand we need to have a secure border. And Mayorkas, it needs to be held accountable for that. Now, again, with all the other things going on in Washington, D.C., I think this is just something on top of the plate of economics and appropriations bills and everything else. But it's something that's been brewing for a while and probably has one of the stronger legal grounds. It's interesting, though, also back to your first part of that question, DOJ going after Texas. That didn't really surprise me. The Constitution gives no enforcement, deportation, let me rephrase that, power to a state. They just don't. And I agree. I have to unfortunately agree with the DOJ, at least in the interpretation, that this is not something they can do. However, I have to applaud Texas for at least doing something. And I think that's the part that most people are looking at going forward. Texas is on the front line, and for all these other cities like New York and Chicago who are whining about this, where were they whining when Texas is being overrun for the last 3 years?
Well, look, if you're going to be a sanctuary city, it can't just be a name only, and New York is getting burned on that one. Doug, hey, Kelly McGee White's on set with me. He's got a question for you.
Doug, one of the factors with the potential impeachment of Mayorkas is this fact that regardless of who Biden puts in DHS, the policies are going to be the same. However, do you think that actually impeaching Mayorkas would send enough of a statement to the Biden administration that Congress is serious about forcing the executive branch to do its job?
You would hope so, but I doubt it. Not with this administration. This administration has shown, especially among the border, that this is not just a policy for them at the border. This is just a fact. It's not, I used to say that they're incompetent. They didn't know how to do their job. I've now sort of changed it. Yes, they're incompetent, but no, this is a plan that they've had from day one to go forward. So will it send a message? Maybe. What I would love to see is send a message is the Congress, getting together bipartisanly to reenact when I was there, I talked about this a lot, the very, Article 2 powers of Congress, that we need to, in the Article 1, Article 2, Article 3, that these are distinct branches that have to be asserted. And right now, Congress is, over the years, under both Republicans and Democrats, have given up too much power to the executive by not being willing to hold the purse strings accountable, by policy accountable. And those are things that's got to be, I think, fixed in the coming years, or otherwise our country is in for trouble.
Doug Collins, it's always good to see you, Doug. Thanks for being here, as always.
Y'all take care. Take care.
All right.